Good evening. Good evening, people. Good evening. Exercise some grace. I am a main chef tomorrow, so just got here. My stomach's empty. It's almost Thanksgiving. And I'm here talking to you, bandits and bandettas. So have some patience with me. God damn it. God damn it, I just got home. Oy, 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 oy. Hold on. Hey, Venus. Hey, Daryl. Good night, Mr. Terrence. Good evening. You can go to bed then. The grown folks are going to be awake for this conversation because I think this is a conversation that needs to be had. It needs to be had. Oh, mine was two. Had to come home to eat. Girl, I am literally starving. It's very annoying. It be those days, that day right before Thanksgiving. You're doing lots of preparation, lots of last minute running around, putting things together. Oh boy, oy vey. But yes, so I hope everyone's evening is good. I'm about to get started, so bear with me. Bear with me. Okay, you guys see the topic. Not you made your food last night. I made all my food. Girl. Whew. I could not, child. I could not. I've been busy, but I'm glad I'm off till Monday. So I have lots of time to twerk and, do all other kinds of stuff. Yeah, I'm fasting right now. It's crazy. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you for the cash apps. I appreciate you people blessing me. My belly hurts. But we're going to go ahead and get started because I think this conversation, it's been building for quite a while. We like to think as women, I think, especially that, most of us are compassionate. Most of us are empathetic, caring. Most of us can, take the weight of the world and still, hold our heads high. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Unfortunately, as a result of, I would say, poor generational behavior and habits, we have come to a point where, as women, there's a lot of danger among us. It's not as much as there is among men and men being around us, but there's danger among us that we don't want to talk about too. Let's be real. A lot of us don't want to talk about it. We're like, no, that's mostly men. 97% of the people who are going to be dangerous to you are men. And although that might be true, very loosely or not, I think it's just as important for us to be aware of and point out very loudly, those of us that can get other women in trouble, can get other women in dangerous situations, hurt, dragged, right? All kinds of scenarios that we just don't even give any light to. So, not people are treacherous. People have been treacherous. They were born such, right? We're all gonna be, unless we naturally work towards the opposite. Most people are gonna be treacherous. They don't give a fuck. They're gonna do whatever serves their interest. And if that means betraying somebody at some point or such, they will do it. So I don't want us to be too harsh, though. So don't think that's what I'm coming to do is, beat down on the black woman. I'm not going to do that. That's not my role here. But I do think it's important for us to have a conversation about those amongst us who are moving foul. We're becoming very dangerous to the people and especially other women around us because think we're already in danger most of the times, quote unquote, but as we say, just being around the opposite sex. Now you include women into that, and you're essentially adding on, right? This might be a hot button thing to say, or maybe not. Maybe it's common sense. But I do think we've built a culture. Oh, hey, giggles, did I already? Ooh, it's freezing here. But we've built a culture where we're not. If we talk about the women amongst us who are doing foul things, who are hurting others, we kind of get a side eye, like, oh, with all the men doing this, that, and the other, why would you come on here as a black woman, and say, well, you other black women who are no, it's more even than that, because I can't even make a joke out of it. It's more than that. It's more than that. You're literally coming to a crossroads, or maybe we've been at the crossroads and we've just haven't been speaking about it. But there are actually women amongst us who don't care about other women. So think really hard, especially if you're the type of woman who cares and worries about the well-being of others. It's becoming silent. All those women, within different facets of our lives that could be putting us in danger. And I really, obviously I'm going to open it up. I'd like to hear people's ideas on this, but I do truly think that this has been probably something that's always been amongst women, but I do think that our inability to be very direct and open about the women who are out there who are doing things recklessly, they're putting other women in danger situations. They're plotting against harming, which, they say all's fair in war or whatever. But it's almost like we can't say that there are women who will put you in very harmful situations out of spite, out of jealousy. I mean, we haven't talked about Shankel in a pretty long time, but that's her fate. Her fate was literally being amongst, wolves, essentially. And she was, maybe a gazelle or whatever. She was just littered with people, especially women, who didn't really care about her beyond the surface level. And, maybe other women like her have been in similar situations and they didn't even think they were in danger because, oh, well, there's a bunch of women here. How are they going to let me get hurt? And I think we need to start saying that there's many ways that can still happen. We need to call out some of the clues, maybe. And we just need to keep having conversations. We can never stop talking about it. So I'm going to get into a few things that I think could probably give you a pretty good idea of if you are interacting with somebody who could put you in danger. So give me a quick intermission. Give you guys some brand lofi. So just give me a second. All right, so I just realized I haven't been on camera once yet, so give me 1 second. Mm, comments. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves, and I appreciate everyone's patience. This should be a good conversation if people are willing to um, be open minded, I should say. All right, so obviously, you guys know if I'm talking about something like this, I'm only going to do it, or maybe you don't know, but if I'm talking about something like this, I'm only going to speak about it in the most fact based ways. So I have some articles here that we're going to read for the first time together. I read excerpts from them, but they seemed interesting enough. So the title of the first article that I'm about to share the screen with you guys is 1 second. All right, so it's the evolutionary psychology of women's aggression. So I found it interesting because I think a lot of the times when we talk about how women interact with each other, we're going specifically off of our feelings, off of how we've interacted with women in our lives, etc. But I do think that it's important to have this discussion from a little bit more of a realistic perspective, right? Biological, um, from the lowest level, our nature per se. I think it's better to have the conversation from, that perspective so that we can start to understand, some of the behaviors you might see and why. And obviously, I'm not positing this as like an answer to, how to figure out who is a good or a bad woman or whatever, or who is a dangerous woman. I can't tell you that for every situation across the board. You're gonna, for yourself, gonna have to use discernment. But I do think there's a conversation we can have um, behind some of the behaviors that are common in women, such as competition that they're going to talk about in this article, etc. But I do think it's important that we, kind of see the backstory to it too, because yes, we can have our ideas, but there are things that are scientific based about our behavior as men, as women. That's why when people just say nature and they're not really telling you anything, I get like confused because yes, nature, but what? What about nature? And I think a lot of what inspired this conversation, Venus, I think it's been brewing for a long time. I think it's not just any particular recent events or anything like that, right? I think it has a lot to do with how women have been interacting with each other, not only in this space, but in the world, in real life. So I would say that's what's been inspiring that. And that doesn't mean I'm saying, oh, I just had a bunch of terrible experiences with women, and that's what I'm on here to be angry about all the women who've wronged me. No, this conversation is for us to talk about the behaviors that women have amongst each other because we do spend a lot of time amongst each other and our hormones change, our cycles line up. Not trying to be nasty here, guys. You can close your ears, but those things all contribute to how we behave amongst each other. So I think why not have a conversation about the scientific things that cause us to behave certain ways amongst women? And now this is a very open discussion. Let me see what Venus is typing here. This reminds me of what we spoke about this morning. Like if you saw about psychological abuse, I did. I was in the chat. Did you forget? No, I got to go up for like maybe a minute, I think, but I was listening and I really liked what the doctor was saying about it because she was kind of breaking it down in a very simple term. I can't tell still if she was saying narcissistic traits or the actual personality disorder. Um, but I'm curious maybe to like even dive into that part of the conversation more. in sort of like the scientific reasons why you stay with somebody um, whom might be love bombing you and then doing that cycle of like high emotions or whatever. How, like, I'm very interested in that. I'll let you have and prepare the discussion because you started with it and I thought it was great. I wish I had more time to talk. Hey Mumu. Hey Liberated. Um, but I am also interested in you guys' thoughts on this discussion. So at some point when I think we've probably read enough or read a good amount to understand what this article is saying, I will open the panel up so that people can come and we can talk about it. And you guys can give your thoughts on what we're reading. This is a scholarly article. I believe this is, ncbi.gov. So very peer reviewed. None of this is, obviously, this is just scientific research, data behind it. It's not meaning to say any particular thing is particularly true for you or the women around you. So don't think I'm trying to say that or trying to turn women against each other. But I think we need to have a realistic discussion about the science behind our behavior towards each other sometimes. So give me a second. I'm going to put some background noise because it's very quiet in my house right now. So you can kind of hear people because it's the holiday season. So let me just give me 2 seconds and I'll be right back. Oops. All right. Let us get into it. And you guys let me know if my audio is too, the background noise is too loud or what. Because we're going to be doing some reading. I know you thought you'd never have to read again, but we're going to be reading tonight. So please bear with me, guys. I appreciate you guys' patience, though, seriously, because today has been a hectic day. So, all right. So this article, like I said, it's called "The Evolutionary Psychology of Women's Aggression." So we'll read the abstract, and then, as we get into it, I probably won't read every section. I'll leave the link for this in the chat in case people would like to read parts of it on their own. Hey, Rogue. Hey. Ooh, I think it's like blue, and I'm trying to get like the right so it's not too in my face, but all right, guys, appreciate you while I'm working through this lighting issue. And if my audio starts sounding funky, let me know. So here's the link. This is for people to click, read on their own, skip ahead if you'd like. But give me 1 second, guys. I can't even see my screen good. Hold on. All right. Give me 1 second. I find this music to be very relaxing. I like having like ocean sounds sometimes, but if it gets distracting and it's loud, let me know. I will boot it. Just have to grab my glasses real quick. My lighting is not the greatest in here, but it'll have to do. Give me 1 second. Just the sound. You probably go a little louder than that. If it's a little loud, just let me know and I'll turn it down. I think because it's peaceful sound, you probably put it up a little bit. I appreciate everyone's patience. Hopefully, this article will be very insightful because, like I had mentioned a second ago, I hate having these conversations from emotional perspectives, from, oh, well, this was my experience with women, so I don't think all women are bad or whatever. So I do think it would be interesting for us to analyze more of a realistic argument, especially when it comes to this. So, hold on, guys. Hey, Pink. Hey, you got here right on time. I'm just starting now, but I got home like 20 minutes ago, so I've been running around, and I appreciate everyone here. I'm trying to just be able to read. I didn't want to put my glasses on, but sorry, guys. I have to be a nerd because I can't see anything. I'm old. Old and dying alone like you bandits. No, just kidding. I definitely cannot see my screen without these glasses on. Just give me 1 second. Maybe I'm gonna... All right. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna get going for real. But just trying to get my background together and have to get my glasses, so you guys are gonna have to see me with these dorky, gigantic glasses on my face. But all right. So evolutionary researchers have identified age, operational sex ratio, and high variance in male resources as factors that intensify female competition. Right? These are discussed in relation to escalated intrasexual competition for men and their resources between young women in depraved neighborhoods. For these women fighting, let me just, oh, sorry guys, let's go back to the camera. Hi, Candy Cane. Thank you for popping in. I appreciate it regardless. Um, Definitely catch the playback if you can. But let's get into this article. So, for these women, fighting is not seen as an antithetical to cultural conceptions of femininity, and female weakness is disparaged. Nonetheless, even where competitive pressures are high, young women's aggression is less injurious and frequent than young men's. So they do the same thing, right? When they're usually speaking about women's behavior, and I guess they're using female here, they are usually comparing it to men's, because men tend to be far more violent. So we're going to state that for the record. From an evolutionary perspective, I argue that the intensity of female aggression is constrained by the greater centrality of mothers and fathers to offspring survival. This selection pressure is realized psychologically through a lower threshold for fear among women. So lower threshold for fear. All right, a lot of this we're gonna have to go right through. I don't know if you guys are keeping up, but let's keep up. Neuropsychological evidence is not yet conclusive, but suggests that women show heightened amygdala reactivity to threatening stimuli. May be better able to exert prefrontal cortical control over emotional behavior, and may consciously register fear more strongly via anterior cingulate activity. The impact of testosterone and oxytocin on the neurocircuitry of emotion is also considered. That's a lot of big words, right? So let's see what they're really trying to say here. So before scientists can begin to explain a phenomenon, they need to be able to describe it. In 1981, Sarah Hardy pointed out that the competitive component in the nature of women remains anecdotal, intuitively sensed, but not confirmed by science. So that was pretty much what we were just saying, right? Or what I was just saying. I think a lot of the times how we compete or ideas of that comes from our beliefs and how we see women, how we've interacted with women. Essentially, that seems like what they're saying there, but there's no science per se. So happily, since that time, quantitative analysis and qualitative descriptions of women's aggression have been published. So they're going to start by outlining what these studies have told us before considering an evolutionary informed account of the psychological basis of sex differences in aggression. So they're going to talk about some psychological perspectives of that. So the shape of young women's violence. So in the United States, girls account for 33% of arrests for simple assault and 24% of aggravated assaults. Despite a 24% increase in female arrests for simple assault between 1996 and 2005, victimization and self-report data indicate that this reflects changes in police practice rather than the girls' behaviors. All right, so they did kind of say a mouthful there, right? So pretty much what they're saying is, even though there's more arrests happening for these violent things, it's not necessarily saying that there is an increase in behavior. That's kind of what I interpret. If you guys see different in that, let me know. But it does kind of seem like they're saying, hello, Sherelle, what is up? What did I do now? What did I do? Is it the glasses? Is it because I look like a librarian? That's okay. That's all right. I can't see, unfortunately. So we're going to have to read through this. And I shared the link there. So if anyone wants to read, you can read it. But pretty much what it's saying here is that it seems like the amount of arrests is what is increasing. The male to female ratio for assault has remained remarkably stable over time. The gender gap is considerably greater for aggravated than simple assault, reflecting girls' less serious behavior and their lower likelihood of using weapons. That's interesting. That is not what I was thinking walking into this, is it? You know, sometimes things just surprise you, right? Because even though all this is true, there's still something to be learned here. But let's continue. Good evening, M. Mills. Good evening. So we're reading an article that's going to talk about women's aggression and competition. They're breaking down violence. We might skip this because I do think that they're speaking about If weakness makes the girl tough. Okay, so that seems more like what we're trying to get into. And the important thing that I hope you guys caught from the beginning is that they're talking about women who specifically need to be competing for those resources. So young women in impoverished neighborhoods. So that seems to be what their sample size is. It's very limited, I would say, in terms of who is involved in it. Because obviously, if it's people who need it and they're competing for it, you're going to kind of get varied results because there is, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you do need to meet those physical needs. You need to meet those basically. I think the bottom needs are like having shelter, water, food, that type of thing. Very base level animalistic needs. What is up, DJ Witch Doctor? DJ Witch Doctor, please don't be dragging any mammies in here with you. This is well, you know what? You can drag them in. Actually, you bring all the mammies you want. They can come. They can sit in the discussion. They can't talk, but they can sit in on the discussion. We're all gonna learn today. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you for coming. But yes. So it looks like you have to keep in mind that they're talking about women who are in impoverished, low-income neighborhoods, and they're specifically competing for the men around them that have, the amount of resources that it would take to rescue them, per se, from whatever situation they're in. Yes, mammy lives matter, I guess. I don't know. I don't know about that one, actually. What is up, Prod? What is all these long faces for? What did you think this was going to be about? Did you read my bio? I don't know if you people read my bio when you come in here, but what did you think this was going to be about? We're going to learn. You're going to learn. Okay? Relax. But yes, so it seems like they're talking about in this paragraph, from what I'm surmising, that they're pretty much talking about the depiction of aggression in women, etc. So this paragraph seems to be interesting here. So let's look into it. And if the rest of this is just talking about women's behaviors now and not related to competition and what it seemed like it was going to be about, we'll probably skip it and keep moving because it's a very long article, as you can see. So it says, if weakness makes a girl a target, an important benefit of willingness to fight is the avoidance of victimizations. Girls' reports of their first fights present aggression as a form of self-defense by emphasizing that their opponents started it. In some cases, starting it refers to a physical assault, but more often to verbal taunts, to which physical aggression is seen as the appropriate response. Right? The slippery divide between physical and verbal provocation is mirrored in the equally fuzzy distinction between self-defense and reputation enhancement. For many girls, success in a public fight achieves more than the immediate goal of causing an opponent to back off. It promotes a crazy or mean reputation that will deter others from future attacks. Reputation enhancement involves a disproportionate response to any perceived act or rumor of disrespect, including staring, failing to move out of the way, behind-the-back gossip, and an offensive demeanor that presumes social superiority. This is petty as hell. That seems like you can fight anybody. You can fight anybody. Oh, that's a salute. Okay. You guys know I can't see. What is up, Goat? What is up? So I'm going to reread that sentence for you because I don't know if you guys were paying attention. Let me reread that sentence. Very interesting. All right. So girls' report of their fights. Girls' reports of their fights present aggression as a form of self-defense by emphasizing that their opponents started it. In some cases, starting it refers to physical assault, but more often to verbal taunts, to which physical aggression is seen as the appropriate response. So I don't know if you can call that person culture or just a dynamic amongst some women, but it pretty much sounds like more often than not, the reason why physical aggression and fighting is being used and is being sold as self-defense is because of basically drama, it seems like, right? Verbal taunts. And, she said that, so you got to slap her in the head. And I'm going to read the next couple sentences, and it talks about some behaviors and some things that women like to do. I just read it. If you guys were listening, no one wrote anything in the chat about it. But I'm gonna reread this part really quickly. Yes, yes, goat. Goat is here. Yes. I'm gonna get right back into it. Excuse me if I'm reading kind of fast. I do want us to focus on the parts that are about competition specifically. It seems like that's what they were trying to highlight. But it says here, seen as the appropriate amount. The slippery divide between physical and verbal provocation is mirrored in the equally fuzzy distinction between self-defense and reputation enhancement. So again, this study or this particular article is talking about, and I believe they said in the first sentence that this is like competition amongst. Oh no, so okay, so we are talking about just the U.S. This is outside of the impoverished girls specifically seeking men. This is also just girls in the US, it seems like. And I want to just confirm that because that's what we were talking about here, US violence currently. All right, so this isn't just that specific demographic. This is amongst girls, period. So the slippery divide between physical and verbal provocation is mirrored in the equally fuzzy distinction between self-defense and reputation enhancement. For many girls, success in a public fight achieves more than the immediate goal of causing an opponent to back off. It promotes a crazy or mean reputation that will deter others from future attacks. Reputation enhancement involves a disproportionate response to any perceived act or rumor of disrespect, including staring, failing to move away, behind the back gossip, and an offensive demeanor that presumes social superiority. So a girl who thinks she's all that. Very interesting because a lot of the movies and stuff that we consumed, it's almost like that's what was shown as the normal way is how women interact with each other. And in some senses, I'll say maybe that's true for some women. But I don't know. I don't know. Are they saying that this is naturally what happened, like how women interact with each other? I feel like that's why sometimes it's hard to interpret certain material and then just run with one part of it and say, well, this means women all compete with each other and there's hierarchy of, your reputation is so important. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how is this specific to gender? Is this people? Sounds like what niggas be doing when they lying and cap. Honestly, essentially, it does kind of seem like the mirror to their reputation. Like they're trying to create like a persona per se. And maybe in some senses, women do need or girls in this particular case, do need to create a persona, especially if they are in a school where there's a lot of, or let's say every school has a little bit of bullying, a little bit of mean girls, a little bit of clickiness, right? And this might be how you have to behave to thrive in those environments and not get eaten up by whatever social hierarchies that are occurring in a particular school, especially where there's a bunch of young girls. So let's continue. Gossip, a girl who thinks she's all that. The only thing I don't like about social superiority is that how do you presume you have that? Like, is it the way you carry yourself? Is it the way you look? Because you can't argue with what a person looks like or how they carry. If they carry themselves like realty, what's the issue? It is what it is. Let them pretend what they are in their head. I just don't. It seems like a lot of this, or some of this at least, is up for interpretation. Like from each woman or each neighborhood or each area, you could get a different idea of what kind of behaviors would mean you presume social superiority over somebody else. I don't know. All right, let's keep reading. So, once established, reputations must be defended against others who are seeking to enhance their own. Girls who start fights are trying to make their name. They'll go fight somebody. Somebody can be like, so and so fought her, just so their name will be known. One response to such reputation-seeking challengers is for tough girls to get their reputation in first. In this way, a self-reinforcing loop develops between self-defense, reputation enhancement, sensitivity to challenge, and preemptive aggression. But these overarching principles of deterring disrespect and maintaining a reputation obscure the specific triggers that provoke fights. What accusations or provocations constitutes act of disrespect worthy of a violent response? This is exactly what I'm saying. Like, disrespect to one girl might be just looking in their direction. Disrespect to one girl might be looking better than her. Disrespect to another girl might be taking her man. How do we measure? How do we measure? From each neighborhood to each demographic to each age range, how do we measure what is disrespect from woman? There's so many variables that can play into it. So I just, is this scientific though? I mean, they've obviously done the numbers on it, but it seems like, how do you determine that? And they're asking us that, so maybe they have the answer. I don't know, but I don't know how you measure what is disrespect worthy of a violent response. I would say, right, for me, it's insulting or attacking somebody. Sounds like this describes men too. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if I mean, they're talking about girls specifically, but a lot of this sounds like stuff men do too, right? Men definitely have to fight for their reputations. They definitely have to keep up persona so they're not attacked or bullied or seen as a target by other men. I definitely know that's true. But the way they're describing it here is more of like, there's more structural hierarchies to it when it comes to women, and I don't know, men are gonna have to speak for that. I don't know what the hierarchies are with interacting with each other, with reputation, with how fluid your reputation is as a man. I think even that varies from state to state, demographic to demographic. So let's continue. I'm gonna actually also drop the links. I did say this is an open panel, but I wanted to get some of this out because I know it's, once people get up here, it's like, okay, let's stop and talk, and then we've forgotten. So let me put the link in case people have thoughts that they want to share, in case they want to jump up. All right. So, although girls will fight out of loyalty to family and friends, the ethnographic literature leaves little doubt as to the central role played by boys. Romantic rivalry is one cause. Girls understand their own value in terms of the quality of boys they can attract. Say one guy is good looking. We're all in a fight over who's getting who. If all girls are fighting for this one really popular guy and one girl gets him, everyone will think she's more popular too. This sounds like some kid stuff. This sounds like some baby stuff. I don't know. Very strange. Sounds very high school, but then again, I mean, maybe we never evolved past that level of behavior. Hey, Wind Chime, No Chaser, Seahorse. I see you guys coming in here. I appreciate everyone showing up for this conversation. I did drop the link, but I'm going to be getting into this. I'm going to be reading it. So if people just want to listen and then wait until we get, a little bit further into what the article is saying, because this is outside of, we still haven't spoken about my opinions or anything like that. This is specifically what this article is talking about. Yeah, I mean, all right. I can definitely see how this can be applied to men and women too, though. They're definitely on point, though. Romantic rivalry is probably one of the bigger reasons why women compete. In the beginning, they were talking about how it's more resource driven. So in neighborhoods where women are, oh, I didn't see you back there. Let me add you to the stage. Hopefully that's the real Taz. I didn't even check. Hello.
What up? Now let me quit. What up?
Wait a minute. Hey.
Hey,
Did
so
you hear?
now I jumped up right quick to say this because look, my phone about to die, so I don't know how long it's gonna let me be up here. But I was gonna say, so in terms of what you're saying, it kind of makes sense though, because like a celebrity, a lot of times when they marry a nobody or a person that's not known, they make that person known to the point where it's almost like people think
Okay.
that they married another celebrity. So I mean, it
Yes.
does kind of apply even outside of high school.
Okay. And that's where I think for a celebrity, but now think of the average, like just popular Joe in his town. Will the person who marries that popular Joe suddenly become popular too, or is she just his wife?
Probably not as popular, but if you go from unknown to being known as my wife, you too did, grow in popularity.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, that's fair.
You may not be the most social, or people don't have to know you, but they know of you now out of nowhere based on your proximity to me.
Okay, so that's fair. I think that's fair. But again, that varies from man to man because what if that guy is popular, but that doesn't do anything for a woman's reputation? I think that's probably true for a lot of men. For the majority, there's probably few men that can say, this person being married to me gets some type of notice because some people we've never even heard of or seen their wives, and some people we know who they're married to, and we know something about their wife just because of the person that we know that's married to them. Do you get what I'm saying, kind of, or am I just
Yeah, no,
rambling?
I get exactly what you're saying, because like on a local level, I do think it's like you only got like maybe like the quarterback in high school that was famous or something.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't have a bunch of famous people in every town. So no, I think you're more correct than not. But I'm just throwing that little scenario in there because there are instances where just simply your popularity can make the people around you popular too.
Okay, that's part. I guess that's you're definitely not wrong there, and I think this one is true more so than even that, right? I think other women see you with a guy that is popular and that probably boosts you up too because they want to be you. They want to be in that position. That's not true for every woman. I'm speaking very generally here, but I think even that can play a part into it, probably more so than the men.
Yeah, I've heard about that since I was a kid. So yeah, I know that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard people even say like some men will specifically wear their rings out and flirt with people because just them being married makes them like more desirable. Now, is that true for everybody? No, but I've definitely heard people tell me that. So I'm not going to deny it. Definitely not.
No
Who's selling
doubt.
food stamps in here? What? Y'all are being messy. But yeah, I'm going to keep reading. Do you have any other thoughts? Because I kind of been reading for a little bit.
Nah, shit, keep reading. You don't want to read. You ain't got the speech thing on there. You can't highlight it and make it talk. Cause that's what I be doing when I get tired of reading. I let that motherfucker read itself.
I don't know how to do it on this computer, honestly. I used to have a different one that was easier. I'm just gonna read it. So if anything comes up and you want me to stop, just let me know while you're up here, obviously. But
All
I'm
right.
gonna keep reading. So they started talking now about romantic rivalry being one reason why there is also competition and fighting and provocation of fights amongst women as well, or girls as well. I keep it to girls because they're talking about young girls in this case. So girls understand their own value. The boys, the quality of boys they can attract. If one is good looking and we're all fighting him, the one who gets him, we all think she's more popular too. So that's pretty much what I was kind of just alluding to there. So once a boyfriend is secured, the relationship must be protected from takeover by other girls. Jealousy is another major cause of female fights. When a girl spends too much time with another girl's boyfriend, the anger is firmly targeted at the female interloper rather than the male partner. This is a fact. I don't know if anyone else feels like that, but this is a fact. People will see their partner cheat and they're not even mad at the dude. They're more ready to fight the girl. Like now this isn't true for everyone. But again, this is generally we all probably know a few people who will tussle down with every woman that they see their man cheat on them with. But the dude be right there chilling. Maybe he'll get a little sock to the head or something. But beyond that, you see the fighting happening more amongst the person that they see as like the interloper, which is the word it looks like they use there. What was it? Yeah, interloper. It looks like I lost it. I'm not gonna go look back for it because this is too much reading. But yeah, interloper rather than the male partner. This is more remarkable because young players enjoy trading girls against one another. He was being with both of them at the same time, and they ended up fighting over him or whatever. In the end, they found out that both of them was getting played by him. Wow, the universe is hilarious. Commentators have noted that jealousy motivated fights may not be entirely about the boy, but about the kudos that a relationship with a high status boy can bring. At other times, the dividing line between defending a relationship and maintaining a reputation becomes blurred. I don't care about the guy or anything, but I'm gonna mess that girl up because she deserves it. The B word, just be asking for it. The way I see it, I ain't fighting over the boy. I'm fighting the girl because she's acting in a way that she thinks I'm a punk. Sorry, guys. I'm reading this because they put it in ebonics for some reason. No, I'm just kidding. Because they put it in like, spoken terms, which sounds like a teenager. Oh, we lost Taz. But they put it in spoken terms that sounds like a teenager, and it's sending me. I'm so sorry. But all right, so let's keep reading. Jealousy can be even more extreme when financial incentives are added, such as when the wrong girl is the mother of her boyfriend's baby. Attractive girls are both the strongest rival for male attention and the greatest threats to an ongoing relationship. However, it is a combination of attractiveness. It is a combination of attractiveness together with a self-confident dress, makeup, or demeanor are often targeted. Sorry, oops, I skipped the sentence. Self-confident awareness of that seems particularly provocative. Girls who advertise their attractiveness through dress, makeup, or demeanor are often targeted. These girls offend on two fronts. They attract more than their fair share of boys, and they communicate their felt superiority over other girls. So it seems like there's a lot of bravado even among women, right? Even ourselves. We sit here and we look at other women, we're like, what one was she got? Or, we're talking about girls here, but it seems like the same bravados that men have about conquering and getting men and women, we have similar ones as women. And I said men and women because we're being, inclusive of everything here. But it seems like there's also a hierarchy among girls to have what somebody else has, to steal, to compete in the same ways that men are competing with each other. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot of difference in terms of how competition happens among maybe genders or maybe the sexes in general. She sounds blackish. Oh my God. I'm going to need you to go into timeout, Seahorse. Somebody timeout, Seahorse. That was crazy. Come on. How do you sound blackish? Really? All right. So, how did I dodge all of this in school? Honestly, I don't know when this came out, but this seems like it's kind of breaking it down little by little. So, when you break things down this clearly, yeah, you're going to find a lot of layers that you probably don't hear generally when you study sociology or psychology or any combination of the two. And shout out to Goat for coming up. I didn't even know when you had accidentally dropped, excuse me, but or your phone died or whatever. But thank you for coming up because you did bring up a good point. I do think that there is some louche or some desire for women to have a powerful person or man that can bring light. So it's the same. It's kind of like the same way where a woman can be a trophy to a man. For certain women, or for some women at least, or girls in this case that they're specifically speaking of, obtaining a very popular, high value person actually does bring some level of louche to them. They feel like they've accomplished something by, say, being with or being able to secure a relationship, because it seems like that's what the term that they use here. Based time me out. LOL. I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to say there. But yeah, so girls offend on two fronts. They attract more than their fair share of boys, and they communicate their superiority over other girls. It becomes a form of disrespect, which adds to the rivalry. So that's so weird. It seems like they're saying women interpret a girl taking good care of herself, or girls interpret a girl taking good care of herself, showing up nice, showing up right, showing up looking good, as trying to, you know, make themselves seem superior to other women or other girls in this case. I wonder how this applies to adults or how this changes through adulthood. I have so many questions. That's why I find even just learning the little things about it can teach you something that maybe you thought was a little naive. Now, he's saying, Taz brought up the point that this doesn't just apply to high school, because obviously as you get older, if you marry a celebrity, just because you're married to a celebrity, that might bring some celebrity to your life, right? My point to that was that that's probably not going to be the case for most people, right? Most of the times, if you get any popularity or louche or some type of celebrity from being with someone. It's going to be at a local level. It's going to be more so amongst maybe your community, maybe even your state, your town. It's not going to be in the same large way. So it begs the question, why even compete like this? So you're just competing for the next average Joe that works at Amazon or at a construction company. Shout out to the blue collar workers. We need you. But I mean, it seems like all this competition and it's just to get, the average male. So, anyways, let's continue. While disrespect is often synonymous with status challenge among young men, the same is not true for girls. Girls do not show the hierarchical structure typical of boys' groups. That's interesting because I thought this seemed hierarchical. I mean, it's definitely not the same as boys, but it does seem like a hierarchy of its own. Girls chiefly want to fit rather than stand out, and it is this which explains the paradoxical finding that girls who are nominated as popular, so visible, charismatic, are not well liked as friends. Interesting. So girls who communicate their attractiveness too confidently are targeted not just because they are conspicuous to boys, but because they set themselves apart from other girls. This refusal to blend in means that those girls who disdain concern with their appearance or with securing a boyfriend can also be picked on. An inherent sense of superiority is read into their non-conformity. So it seems like girls, I don't know what percentage of girls, but they're saying here girls interpret a woman being too, or a girl being too vocal or too open about, how attractive they find themselves, or being too conspicuous, as they can interpret, as them not conforming to just blending in and being the average girl. Which I find interesting because it's like, who determines this? Who determines what the average girl is? Who determines what how most women are gonna behave? What is blending in? It seems like this is gonna vary so much that there's no way to really know from person to person, situation to situation. So let's continue reading. All right, so it seems like they're saying that because um some girls choose to focus on their appearance and their attractiveness, the ones who don't are inherently going to be picked on, and it causes a whole sense of attack on them just because they're less focused on looks and stuff like that. And I do honestly think that's full of shit. Honestly, I do feel like sometimes people will hate and be kind of mean to girls that they find are pretty or that they think are too confident or whatever. And I'm not saying that about for any particular reason, but I do think that in some senses, um, if a girl interprets another girl as taking a lot of care of herself or whatever it might be, that they might start to feel like that person is trying to show them up or whatever. And that again, that could vary because what type of girl would you be intimidated by, right? I feel like that's a hard question for most people to answer because we probably would think, oh, well, I'll only be intimidated by a celebrity or whatever. But you might run into anybody, and they might for some reason just make you intimidated. So it varies from person to person, situation, what type of person you are even. All right, so perhaps the strongest evidence that boys lie at the heart of female competition is the term used to insult others. The same epithets appear frequently in accounts of girls fighting: slag, slut, whore, tart. The second most common insults are about a girl's appearance: ugly, fat. What is delivered directly to an opponent's face or reaches her via gossip and rumor, these terms are often the immediate trigger to physical confrontation. Sociologists have interpreted that the prominence that girls accord to their appearance, boyfriends, and sexual reputation as reflecting male hegemony and girls' internalization of men's sexual objectification of women. They argue that girls come to themselves through the male gaze, evaluating their worth in terms of boys' approval and respect. And now this is why I made my disclaimer, because I don't think every girl or woman or whatever is like this. I do think that this is specific to certain type of girls or type of women. Um, I find it interesting that this seems like this almost seems like that talking point, right? Where it's like the whole world we see through the male gaze, and we know as women that's true. Um, but I think that this doesn't leave a lot of nuance and room for people who may have overcome that very surface level belief of themselves, right? This obviously seems like it's relating to girls, the language they keep using here. But at what point does it shift? Because then they shifted from girls and what girls are doing and boyfriends to objectification of women. So obviously this mindset is transferring at some point from when you're an adolescent or a girl to womanhood. And I just obviously this is a long article, but I'm hoping to get more into like as you get older, especially as a woman, how that shifts and how our behaviors change, because they're doing a really good job, I think, of describing the behaviors of girls and maybe young people in schools, but it doesn't seem to me like they're talking very much about adults and how we behave in adulthood, because that's where we might start to be able to get into some of the behaviors that you'll see happen to women in adulthood when they're put in dangerous situations by women. um, might want to check out the concept of the pecking order. I think it's interesting you bring that up because this article is actually studying women. So instead of comparing ourselves to animals, we can actually look at the studies that are, you know, done with humans and interpret that instead. Because I do think animal behavior is limited. Mumu, I don't disagree per se. I will just say that I think from what they're speaking of here, especially with the very surface level, like, oh, you view yourself through what, like how men view you, whatever. I feel like at what point or is this article implying that most women never get out that male gaze perspective, that most of us see the world through the male gaze? Is that what this article is alluding? And we're very early in it still. We're still at the very beginning, but I'm wondering that would almost be what they're implying here, because a lot of the concepts that they're using, when they're using it, they're using girl, boy, and you can think of it, right? You see the movies, or you even could possibly, recall an experience when you were a young person where you've had some interactions with girls or boys like this. But I'm struggling to see in what they're writing this in adulthood. Because I think if we're able to get to that part of the article, then we might start to understand a little bit of what motivates the behaviors in adulthood that causes competition amongst women. Obviously, that can be competition in career, competition in popularity, competition in relationships, love life, whatever. So it's not necessarily just limited to relationships, like boy, girl, or whatever, like not even just hetero, but like romantic relationships. It's also can apply to our daily lives and maybe our careers and other places and times in which we're competing as women, right? I would love to get into that. So I hope they're not just focusing on children here, because it seems like the examples they're giving are related to children. They're using the verbiage that it seems to be that they're speaking of girls, boys. So let me see. Sociologists have interpreted the prominence that girls accord to their appearance. Okay, we just actually. But this obscures a more fundamental issue. Why is male approval so important to teenage girls? All right, so they definitely are talking about teenage girls here. It can be applied to adults, I think, but I would love to hear a little bit more about how this plays out in adulthood. Because as much as I think it's important to know how we behave as kids, um, we're going to spend most of our lives as adults. So I think it will be more applicable to read about how we behave in adulthood when we're competing, whether it be with in romantic relationships, like I said, whether it be career, whether it be social status, whatever. So, all right, why are the terms impugnated? So effectively during fights, and evolutionary approach goes beyond chastising girls for the false consciousness. Okay, so male aggression and the paucity of female aggression has been explained in terms of the greater male variance in reproductive success contingent on polygyny. However, recent developments in evolutionary biology have queried the simplicity of the traditional view of sexual selection, which highlights intense male but not female competition for mates. Rates of female competition are higher in species like our own, with biparental care and diminished sexual dimorphism. Attempts to trace the evolution of biparental care have used estimates of increased infant cranial size, leading to earlier births, protracted offspring dependence, and greater maternal need for assistance, and dated it to 1.5 MA. In terms of sexual dimorphism, archaeological evidence suggests that the relatively modest difference in skeletal size between men and women has remained stable over about 2 MYR. I think that means lots of years and possibly longer. The long history of human biparental care is mirrored in the fact that the vast majority of the world's population live monogamously, despite the large number of societies that permit polygyny. Is that supposed to mean polygamy? Or is that how polygamy is spelled? I didn't think so. I thought there was an M. But anyway, so the consequences of monogamy for women have been underappreciated. When a man commits himself to a single woman, his criteria for mate choice shift dramatically upwards. Monogamy entails two-way sexual selection. Women as well as men must compete to attain their best possible mates. While men and women share a preference for mates who are intelligent and kind, there are some traits that assume a higher priority for one sex than the other. Women value resources, ambition, and generosity, which reflect their need for material and emotional support in raising children. Men value youth, attractiveness, and fidelity, which reflect preference for higher reproductive value and the avoidance of colgery. When women compete for well resourced men, their intersexual competition will entail advertising those qualities that men value, and their intersexual and their intersexual competition will entail discrediting such traits in their rivals. When viewed from the perspective of girls' preoccupation with enhancing their appearance and defending their sexual reputation becomes more comprehensible as the provocative power of accusations of sexual availability and ugliness. But as recent theorists have pointed out, the severity of mate competition in both sexes is dependent on a range of individual and ecological moderators. Facts such as adult sex ratio, sex bias mortality, population density, and variation in mate quality can impact strongly on the degree of intersexual competition. Below, I consider such factors can moderate the intensity of women's aggressions. This seems like exactly where I was trying to go. But before we move on, one thing I wanted to jump right back to really quick. So, the severity of mate competition in both sexes is dependent on a range of individual and ecological moderators. I think this is really important, right? Because this means that although we have this biological need to compete to get this or that as a woman or a man, most of us still individually are motivated by our own needs and what we're expecting. And one of the big ones, and I think maybe why people are less, likely to date and have children these days is because the quality still needs to be there, right? That's still an important factor here. Where did we get to here? Where did I just see that? Cuckolding. Mate quality can impact strongly on the degree of intersexual competition. So if there's no good quality males out there, or mates, I should say, so that we don't break it down by gender, then there's no competition. There's less competition, right? There's going to be more competition if you're in a more densely populated area. There's more more different qualities of men, right? Obviously, other factors there like adult sex ratio, etc. So is there more men than women? All of those things play in. So they're also going to get into here next some of the things that intensify women's aggressions, right? That's what we kind of been trying to get to with this article. Pasta, I am on reading. Okay, that's what we're doing today. We're reading, we're learning. We're not just talking out of our tuhus. We're actually going to read. And I think what we're about to get into is, very important. It's very related to the title, right? The dangers of delusion, the spiteful woman, right? There are going to be instances where it makes sense why women are reacting violently or aggressively towards each other. But sometimes, as we're going to see, there's probably other factors at play here, which seems like they can be biological. Let's see what Len is saying. I wonder if a woman or girl doesn't care to compete, does that save her from the potential violence towards her? Honestly, Lana, that seems like what's also being implied too, right? There's a lot of implications that can be made, especially because it's saying that even though this is true about how we compete, individual and moderating factors still apply, right? So, ecological moderators, right? So, depending on your environment, right? That's where we're in the beginning. We were talking about specifically impoverished women who had little access to men with lots of resources. There was competition. There was going to be high tension and aggression to compete for those little resources that are available and the little men who can provide them. So I do think, maybe if you're not in this rat race, or let's say, maybe you're older and the clock is ticking or whatever, maybe that can be an ecological factor that would for some reason be, or not necessarily for some reason, but that would be the reason why maybe you're not interested in a partner or a potential mate, right? That might be a factor that'll keep you away, but because of your biological clock, you have this other thing that could be causing violence to come towards you. So I think it really depends on, it seems like they're saying it depends from woman to woman, right? It depends on your circumstances, what you're surrounded by. A lot of it has to do with population size as well. So, Seahorse, I've been very curious recently as to how women regard a male as quality, and I think it varies. I don't think there is a specific idea, right? Because I think, especially as we're moving towards maybe a society where the gender roles have changed, there's more gender identities available now. People are, you know, things are seeming to be more open, so it's not as cut and dry, right? Maybe it's different. Let's see what you're saying here. Also triggers other people. Yeah, and it seems like they're specifically mentioning that that's one of the reasons that people would fight. That would be considered taunting, right? Using your reputation to taunt the next person. It seems like, yes, you're spot on there with that observation. All right, so let's read. Uh, do, 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 do. It is no surprise that age is a strong predictor of aggression. For sexes, the teenage years signal entry into the mating arena and concomitant increase in aggression that is visible in criminal statistics. In line with girls' earlier sexual maturity, their offending peak occurs 2 years earlier than boys. Allied to this, early menarche is predictive of girls' aggression. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, probably not. Life history theory formed the basis for expecting that age of menarche should be responsive to cues from the local environment that can canalize development towards a fast or slow reproductive tempo. These cues have been identified as a resource scarcity, high rates of early mortality, psychological stress, low quality parental investment, father absence and stepfather presence. Um, Seems like they were going to end somewhere there. By signaling environmental uncertainty and unpredictability, these variables are thought to accelerate pubertal timing and reproduction in an adaptive fashion. In deprived neighborhoods, girls may experience many of these risk factors simultaneously. These girls begin their sexual careers earlier, putting them at a significant advantage over their peers. In addition, older girls are acutely sensitive to the entry of younger competitors into the mating arena, and this may increase their likelihood of victimization and retaliation. Wow. Wow. So that's pretty much, I don't know if this is a dangerous implication, but this is pretty much saying that for some women who are still in the arena, right? They're still in the maybe mate competition arena. The younger women actually pose a threat to them, right? It seems like they're saying biologically speaking. All right. Interesting. So when women say there aren't many quality men out there, they are speaking nebulously. Boy. So girls who let's see, they're talking about sex ratio. Might increase their like. Did I just pass what I was trying to read? Girls who reach their menarche early are more likely to be involved in delinquent and aggressive behavior. And this is especially true for maltreated girls and those living in disadvantaged neighborhoods. So obviously, you're going to see more aggression and maybe delinquent behavior in obviously disadvantaged neighborhoods, not just because of that competition that's occurring between women, but there's obviously a host of other factors too that could be affecting that. So sex ratio in the local neighborhood determines the intensity of mate competition that a girl faces, and in a number of centuries in the United States, this can be remarkably skewed. In 2000, the male-female ratio in New York was 90 to 100, and in Philadelphia, 86 to 8. Damn. Jesus. So this is also making an argument for even availability. In some areas, it's just a huge deprivation, right? There's way more dudes than there is women, right? It seems like Philly is 86-8. So the male female ratio is 86 dudes to 8 women. That's a. Oh, sorry. Okay, I read that wrong. That makes a lot of sense. I was going to say 86 to 8. All right, so 86.8 to 100. So there's a huge difference, or and maybe not a huge difference, but there's a maybe 20% difference there in the availability of the gender, right? 90 to 100 and 86 to 8, about 4 points less. But when you put that in big numbers, it actually does make a considerable difference. So the mortality rate among men is considerably higher than among women, especially between the ages of 15 and 35. At the age of 25, men are 3 times more likely to die from all causes than women, and this rises to a 4 times greater mortality rate for deaths from external causes. Wow. So even just the fact that men are more in danger within a certain time frame decreases the availability of said men. Wow, I did not say that, Jonesing. Don't make me time you off for that one. What is you doing? I'm putting you in timeout. You need a spanking. That was bad. That was bad. I'm not talking about that mammy here. So I'm gonna put you in timeout for that. Hopefully it was a little one, guys. If it wasn't, managing mods, can you please undo that or make it less? But no, that's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying that for certain women, when they're in the arena older, naturally the younger women are going to be competition to them. It's not necessarily anything those young women are doing, and it's not true for all women, but it does seem like it's true for some. Am I well? What are you asking, Sherelle? Do you have a specific question, or are you just here to taunt me like it seems like some of y'all are doing in the chat? I'm literally reading an article. This is scientific reasoning for women in competition. That's all this is. Now, if you guys are making some interpretations or coming to conclusion in your own head, that is your business. That is your business. I'm here to read. We're doing research. Okay, this is learning. We're here to learn. Oh no, Chaser. Why do you guys have to be like this? Fresher is better. That's why younger is the threat. I don't necessarily think that anything is fresher about a young person, because that's a young person could have been put through up and through the mud. Up and through and rolling around. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I just been running around all day. I've been doing Thanksgiving stuff. I've eaten very little today, but we're gonna have the discussion. Um, what do you mean thinking too deep? We're doing research. How low? Like, what do y'all want to think about? Are we supposed to just create illusions in our head, or are we actually gonna learn things and read through them? Like, this is very important information, I think, because especially if you're one of those people who might possibly be moving to make other people, put other people in danger, then maybe you should be mindful of that. What did you write? What you mean? I hope y'all ain't in here texting accidentally what you mean to yeah. Exactly, Mumu. It seems like why are they so focused on the younger part? There was so many other aspects here, but people want to interpret things however they're looking at it. There was so many other things besides being younger that has come up in this discussion about competition. A lot of it was that males are at the center of it usually. Right? This is very important because that dichotomy, we could say, occurring. Um, can you get rid of Mufasa if he starts acting up? You can yank him right out the chat for 24 hours if he starts acting up. I'm not doing this. This is actual scientific knowledge. You can come here for it or you can hit the door. Or I don't know where your door is. Wherever your door is, you can hit it if you don't want to have the conversation. But we are having general conversations about how women interact with each other because we don't talk about this enough, and we should. This has nothing to do with anything else besides women and how we interact with each other. So, yeah, that's all they're focused on, Mumu, though, because it seems like people always want to use that as oh, look, that person's younger, so that's what they're. That's not always the case. Just like I was saying a minute ago, that younger person could have been run through the mill, through the rut, through the mud, and they could be worse off than somebody who's older. Exactly, Pink. Focus on the science. Don't focus on anything else. Just the science. No, but seriously, I know Simon's here now, but if he starts acting up, he's hitting the road. So I'm gonna add him here. Hello, Simon. How are you? Do you have any thoughts currently? If not, I'm gonna keep reading.
Why do you talk like that?
Like what?
Like you're trying to attract people that don't understand what you're talking about.
All right, I don't have time for this, so I'm gonna continue. So focus on the case study and analysis. Yes, I wish they would just focus on what we're saying because it seems like people can keep up with the discussion. I'm not doing none of those whatever y'all are trying to do. Who's in the back chat? Probably Simon twerking. Oh, okay, bye. Bye, Simon. See you later. If you're coming to detract from the conversation, you could leave. Um, all right. So let's keep your old comments back up. I don't know. Honestly, Lana, he comes in and I don't even know what he's saying half the time. I let him rock. But now you're coming in and saying I'm going to attract people who don't know what I'm saying. No, I'm trying to have the discussion. This is something we don't generally talk about, especially because a lot of this we say we just feel, we just know. There's no way to discuss it, but this is actually, scientific facts. So let us get into it. You can stay back there, but unless you're going to come up to say something, actually that has to pertain to what we're reading, I don't want to hear it. Is that fair? I can't talk? Why not? I'm confused. How are you detracting from the chat and the back chat? How? Anyways, all right, let's get into it. So another factor that they're discussing here is, obviously the availability of men. They were speaking about mortality, right? By the age of 25, a lot more men are not going to be living, right? So that creates a great sense of urgency for women, especially in those areas where there is a smaller portion of men. I'm assuming, right, Philly has 86.8 to 100. Maybe in another state, it's like 73 to 100 or 60 something to 100. So I'm assuming the worse off it gets, the higher need for competition that feels needed there, right? So the mortality rate among men is considerably higher between the ages of 15 and 25. Men are more likely. So it seems like that peak in their life, men are more likely to pass from external causes. The effect is conditioned by social class and educational achievement, so that in poverty-level neighborhoods, the sex ratio imbalance is especially marked. In addition to mortality, imprisonment also removes a substantial portion of men from the mate pool. So again, no race is being mentioned there, but it does seem like um, in this age frame, men are also not being available. They're also in circumstances that make the competition greater among women because they're not available, because they're in jail or they're passing, or there's so few of them, there's so many, women that are competing for them per se, right? This doesn't apply to all women, but it's what they're speaking of here. So, in addition to a paucity of men, there's also considerable variance in male resources. Ambitious and able men leave the neighborhood as they acquire education and professional employment. Of those that stay, some are destined to unemployment and reliance on welfare, their own or that of their baby mother. Man, you're not going to tell me this. I'm really talking about. Oh gosh, let me stop. Because that, just the way they worded that, it's like parts of this is very scientific, and then you got this ghetto language. And I'm like, why are we using the term baby mother? Like, what is going on? What is happening? NIH.gov. Like, let me stop. Anyways, all right. So, unable to effectively contribute to the household, such men congregate on stoops and street corners where alcohol and drug abuse is common. At the other end of the income spectrum are flossers, drug dealers, and other members of the underworld economy, who are conspicuous spenders and high rollers. They earn and burn their lifestyle may not be long lasting, but their resources make them attractive to many women. That's crazy. That's crazy. So pretty much beyond all the other factors, you almost timed me out for noticing that. Hey, I didn't say anything. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, Lana, I'm feeling like just say black people. They're not saying black people. Just say just say niggas. Like, why are we jumping back to scientific language and then we're jumping into, oh yeah, baby mothers, street corners and stoops? Like, what? Who else are you? I mean, I'm sure this varies, right? This is not a race specific thing, but man, the language is very hilarious. When the baby John Singleton, right? This is giving black exploitation, right? It's definitely giving black exploitation. Like, this study was done at Howard. Oh no, I'm kidding. Geez, I'm like, what? It literally goes from scientific verbiage to baby mother, street corners, broke, like I can't. No, tell me. Come on. Who do you? If we had to play, guess what race it is? What would y'all pick if there was money on the table? Like, let's be real. Let's be real. All right. I can't believe how ghetto this is. I can't believe it. It literally goes from I'm so nerdy. I'm trying to understand how it goes from science to ooh, daddy. Hey, Ash the troll. I love that the language is inclusive. That's true, Seahorse. It's inclusive of who? No, inclusive of. All right, I'm not gonna say anything else about it. Wait, stop playing. Y'all just say anything sometimes. All right, let me take a drink. What is Hi Monty Pie? What is this person doing? They've repeated 5 messages like 3 times. Can somebody time them out? I don't know what they're trying to do. Somebody want to time them out? I don't know what they're doing. T.I. definitely wrote this. I can't. T.I. wrote this. Honestly, it's giving Southern tip. Like, it's giving for sure. Like, they're definitely talking about some ghetto baby mamas and daddies, and then they're going right back to the science. I'm loving it. Mm-mm. Silly. All right. Phew. I'm basically fasting, it seems like, because I'm not trying to gain no holiday weight. I've eaten very little today. I'm gonna eat some when I get off of here, but oof. All right. So that earn and burn, it attracts many women. So we basically ended off on the fact that the resources are so slim that some women really will fall for these these flossers. It seems like, actually, sorry. Give me a second. Sorry about that. But yeah, it seems like That's the only way you gain. Oh God, y'all over? Are you guys reading? Are you reciting tip lyrics now? Are we doing TIP lyrics? This is what we're gonna do for the rest of this article. But yeah, it's hilarious because it seems like what they're implying is there's so much variance. So much unpredictability in what each man is going to be able to provide that a lot of women seem to fall for these fosters, right? The people who are earning their money the dirty way. A lot of women tend to fall for these guys. So dope guys is straight if they think you ain't dissing them. I date whoever is treating your girl the right way. Me, if a guy got some paper, well, it's okay with me. I like that's rolling. At least they making it. This this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Because then the next word or the second to next word is paucity. Are you kidding me? Whoever wrote this, masterful. Masterful what's going on here. Yes, M. Mills, that was literally in the article. I don't know why they're doing this, Lana. It seems like they're turning this into like them old the books with the black girls on the cover, or whatever. And you read this story and this crazy story of them meeting the guy who pimps them out or whatever. Like they're trying to. I don't know. Like I don't like how they're telling these stories though. Like they're making it seem like, oh yeah, like the roughest are gonna get them. And I guess if they're speaking to impoverished girls, the implication is they're ghetto or whatever. It doesn't necessarily say anything about race, but let's be real. This is a bit much. All right. So the paucity of resource-rich alternatives means that these men are able to impose their preferred short-term mating strategy on local women. This may be far from ideal from young women's point of view, but market forces mean that such men often get their way, with young women adapting their resource extracting tactics accordingly. I tell her, take all his paper, all of it. It's just a matter of time, and he's gonna do some rotten dog shit on her. Go to get it when you can. You never know when it's gonna stop, and you better get as much as you can while you can. When fellas get tired of your, it's goodbye, girl. No, let's get the F out of my life. Yo, I'm not reading any more of these ghetto sentences. This is a setup. I'm not reading any more of these ghetto sentences. Think. I don't know. Where did she get her observations? It's true, because why is she writing it like this? Like, this does not seem like it was written. Not seem like it was written by some niggas. I don't know. Just it's very cringy the way they're writing it. Like, I have no clue what they're trying to say. Wow, based paper. What does that mean? Are you trying to write biased? Because you're missing a letter, if so. It's like Romeo and Juliet. Hot sex on the planet. Just to get okay. This is not. Listen, you guys are gonna need to keep your erotica stories to yourself. We're talking about the article here. I'm gonna drop the link in case anyone is interested in hopping up. I am going to try and skip some of these stories, but man, they are sending me. I don't know why they wrote them like this. It's goodbye, girl. Nah, it's get the F out of my life. Next B. Young women in these neighborhoods compete for access to men who can supply lavish, short-lived resources and whose consumer lifestyle contrasts markedly with the hand-to-mouth existence of the unemployed. Damn. So it really it's saying that these women, specifically in the impoverished neighborhoods, they have no choice because it's between an unemployed bum or this high roller who, as soon as he gets tired, he's gonna replace you anyway. So you gotta collect as much as you can, right? If you're one part of this demographic, and when he's gone, he's gone. You got what you got, right? Whew. Man, this article is very telling. Base means dope, Flora. Get with the current. I am almost 30. I don't know what dope current times I'm supposed to be getting with. She didn't put on she put her own little spin on it. Listen, if it's as intellectual as it is, and she put a spin on it, I'm with the shits, honestly. But it seems like the storytelling is very yes, ebonics. I'm gonna use that word again, even though it's a cringy word. All right. Among middle class women, male resource variance is much less extreme. Parental support is available, and consequently, the need to resort to physical aggression is less. Female competition is generally restricted to intersexual rivalry for male attention, right? So once you step outside of those dynamics where it's resource driven, it's survival based, okay, I need to do this so that I can get out of here, or I need to do this to position myself to be around this guy and be able to da-da-da. It's beyond that, it's all just about attention, right? It's not necessarily, there's not as much physical drives for aggression. And that probably explains why the violence is happening to the impoverished, in more so in the impoverished areas, right? Because it's not to say violence only happens in the impoverished, but maybe that's why there's higher rates of violence among women in these areas, right? Because they're all fighting for the same thing. They all want to get out of the hood. They all want to have a little bit of that lavish lifestyle, right? Not all, but majority, or a good amount of them, right? Because who doesn't want to elevate out of a bad situation? But it seems like when you step out of that dichotomy, right, where it's the competition is based on survival, you get into this need for attention, right? It seems like now it's, you want to be the best woman, you want to get the most male attention, right? So I'm curious how deep they're going to get into it. I did quite enjoy they broke down the past section that we just read though. All right. In impoverished neighborhoods, oh wow. The willingness of some women to trade sex for resources makes verbal assaults on a woman's sexual reputation particularly apt, and creates fear among others that they will tarred with the same brush. But everywhere, regardless of social class, race, or ethnicity, accusations of promiscuity are powerful forms of verbal attack because they jeopardize a young woman's chance of finding a reliable long-term mate. And this, honestly, that is kind of sad, right? That what some, like, your reputation, which it seems is kind of fickle, right? It depends on where you are, it depends on income and a lot of other things. That depending on that reputation, which you seem to have to start fighting in, as a girl, that could determine, someone's ability to find a mate. Now, do I think this is true across the board? Not necessarily, especially if you move, especially if you go somewhere else and certain factors are removed and now there's more availability or there's more access or whatever. Honestly, Lena, it really does, right? Because I do think if you're intuitive, if you know, or if you pay attention, I should say, to people's behaviors, then you probably have thought this. You probably have interpreted this from people's behaviors. So hopefully, you know, this is confirmation of things that a lot of us already knew. And if it's new information, hopefully you're able to consume it for what it's really saying. Jonesing, no, you're not on timeout anymore. No, you're not on timeout. Just don't do that, because I really don't want to rehash stuff and talk about people. I just use things that happen as inspiration, if nothing else, right? Inspiration for conversations, for dialogue. That's all, right? So don't think that I'm trying to be messy or anything like that. I really don't want to do that at all. This more is just a conversation, and it's an interesting one at that. It does sound like games. Honestly, I wondered why y'all were laughing at that one. It does sound like the Hunger Games. And the sad part is the Hunger Games is more so imitating life, right? Because they say sometimes life imitates art, but I think art is imitating life in this sense where maybe it's not gender specific, or maybe we are at a point where it's everyone's going through it, but specifically women are competing for resources that are only available through males. It creates a specific type of competition. So it in the sense, it is kind of a Hunger Games, right? We're speaking very gender based in this particular instance, but yes, that it is essentially the Hunger Games the way they're describing it, because it's a way out. It's in a way to elevate yourself. Who doesn't want to have a better situation? So interesting point. Definitely the Hunger Games. Definitely doesn't sound like something that anyone would want to engage in anyways. That's why when you get into those like more middle class or whatever, there's less of it, because It's more about attention and maybe validation and those types of things that we think of when the rest of our needs are being met. So, all right. The sexual revolution has done little to diminish men's reluctance to marry easy women. In addition to damaging a rival's reputation, um, women as a sex benefit by using verbal attacks to control other women's sexuality. Because sex is a resource that men want and women can supply, women gain by maintaining a high market price for sex. By making sex contingent upon commitment, women encourage men to pursue a monogamous strategy. Women who dispense sex too cheaply reduce their bargaining power of other women. Reduce the bargaining power of other women. In class neighborhoods, the intense competition and the paucity of men who are willing to commit increases the temptation to offer sex at a low level of male investment. Yikes. The term whore is used not only to tarnish a rival in a man's eyes, but also to mark her out as someone who has selfishly sold other women out. Wow. That is crazy. All right. So it seems like a lot of these thoughts and beliefs and behaviors that people engage in, they do have a scientific basis, right? It seems like there was enough studying done, enough correlation done, to see that this actually is something that we do as people. So psychological mediators of sex differences and aggression. Close description of the ecological setting, culture, and dynamic of young women's fighting is illuminating, but it should not distract us from the fact that everywhere and at every historical point, physical aggression between women is less frequent and less severe than between young men. As the dangerousness of the aggressive act increases, so does the magnitude of the sex difference. Just as sex difference is greater for aggravated than simple assault, so same-sex homicides show the greatest imbalance, with 97% committed by men around the world. Danger. So we aren't wrong when we're saying 97% majority. I love that these articles, even though they're telling certain things about the gender, they're still keeping the reality where it is, right? Men are still going to be the main violent ones, but it doesn't detract from the fact that there are still instances where physical aggression or aggression in general comes from women. So let's get into it. This pattern of sex differences has been explained in terms of. Oh, did I skip something? Oh, no, I didn't. The rest of that is just data, so we'll skip it. All right, so the pattern of sex differences has been explained in terms of sexual selection. Daly and Wilson focus on the greater variance in male reproductive success, which offers incentives for intersexual aggression in the quest for dominance and resources. While not denying the existence of female aggression, they emphasize its relative paucity, which they explain in terms of the absence of reproductive incentives. Females in polygynous species do not need to compete for copulations. My approach focuses on the greater costs attendant on females' aggression. It does not assume a polygynous mating system and recognizes that incentives other than copulation opportunities can support female aggression. All right, so for both sexes, reproductive success is measured in the number of offspring who survive to adulthood and who themselves reproduce. Okay, so it seems like our need for reproductive distress. Our need for reproductive success, which is basically just means being able to have kids that grow up and have their own kids, and we just continue the cycle. That's how we biologically value ourselves. In both sexes, right? So it doesn't seem like there's a huge difference between men and women in terms of the fact that we value the fact that we value when we are able to reproduce, we're able to raise and create another generation, through our children. It seems like that's important to both men and women. Women are certainly slacking in the violence department. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're trying to say by that, but that just is proof to what women have been saying, right, in this particular article. That might not be true about all women, but in this particular article, it's saying that majority of the violence is still committed by men. So that even though there is that level of aggression that we can expect out of women that will be given to other women, the majority of violence which they extract for is coming from males. So I think it's just nature. I think it's in our nature to be less aggressive and less domineering. So, all right. So given the maternal investment exceeds paternal investment, this burden is disproportionately borne by females. Following gestation, mothers expend calories in lactation and in feeding young children, who must also be monitored and defended from natural accidents and attack by conspecifics. The advantages that high rank could confer in accomplishing these tasks make it all the more surprising that females do not engage in dominance contests to the same extent as males. In many species, dominant females have priority of access to food, supplement others from feeding sites, and are less subjected to predation. They can suppress reproduction in subordinates, have shorter in-birth intervals, and produce more surviving offspring. All right, so we were talking about specific species there. I don't know if I caught which one, which specific. Oh, okay, let's just see. That's literal females. In many species. All right, so among primates, dominance relations are more discernible in female bonded species where daughters remain in their natal group. Dominance in such groups is inherited through matrilines rather than achieved by aggression. Matrilines can be ranked with respect to one another with virtually no overlap. There are three rules that predict the female's rank. First, daughters inherit their mother's rank on her death without requirement for direct combat. Second, mothers dominate daughters for life. Third, in adulthood, young sisters dominate older sisters. This may be a maternal strategy to ensure that a young daughter cannot improve her rank by forming a coalition with her sister. Matrilineal inheritance creates a remarkably stable system. In baboons, a juvenile female's rank at birth correctly predicted her adult rank in 97% of cases. In female gelatinous baboons, there was no alteration in rank position over a 4-year period, despite the disruptive potential of births, deaths, fissions, and male takeovers. Among Capuchins, the female hierarchy was stable over 22 years. Studies which have experimentally manipulated female groupings demonstrate that challenge for dominance is rare and occurs only when the odds are strongly in favor of the challenger, referred to as a minimal risk strategy. Are we? Wow, this sounds familiar. I don't know if anyone's ever heard this. Wow, Liberate, is that what we're seeing in real time? No. No. All this is saying is that, well, there's a lot being said, so we're gonna have to break it down little by little. But they're specifically speaking about matrilineal inheritance. They're speaking about the matrilineal ranks among monkeys and different species of monkeys, pretty much. And that sounds very familiar. When have we recently heard about monkeys? I don't think they're baboons, though. I don't think they're baboons, but it's definitely a type of monkey. Can't quite put my tongue on it. I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't sound familiar, but definitely sounds similar to baboons. I think definitely similar to that. All right, so by contrast, in non-female bonded primates, for instance, chimpanzees, in which females transfer to a new group at adolescence, dominance relations are hard to detect and rarely involve outright aggressive confrontation. Bonobos, also female relationships are egalitarian, and aggression between females constituted only 9 out of 32 aggressive episodes recorded. Wow. The advantages of dominance combined with the reluctance of females to risk aggression in its pursuit suggest that there must be associated costs. Aggression involves the possibility of injury and death, and their consequences on reproductive success are not equal for men and women. For women with their limited grace and fecundity, I don't know how to pronounce that. Child survival plays a critical role in their ultimate reproductive success. A review of 45 studies of natural fertility populations with limited access to medical care indicated that a mother's death has a uniformly detrimental effect on her children's chance of survival. The effect is strongest in the early years of a child's life. Pavard et al. Conducted a careful study of births in 17th and 18th century Quebec. They excluded cases in which the baby died immediately following the birth. To exclude obstetric complications and cross-infection, and corrected for between-family heterogeneity, so intrinsic family mortality levels. A mother's death during neonatal period increased the odds of her children dying in the natal period, so 28 to 299 days after. If the mom passed, babies were likely to pass too by 5.52. Although the effect was less extreme at later stages, the death of mother in early childhood, between the ages of 3 and 5, increased the odds of her children dying in the same period by 2.48 and 1.45 if her death occurred during late childhood. So seems to be some evidence suggesting that the mom is highly responsible for the survival of those kids. And a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that moms tend to be the main caregivers for. I don't approve of bonofication of this study. Oh, I think she's trying to get the elbows. You guys are really brilliant. You're really bright. Honestly, Mumu, I said Momo. Honestly, Mumu, I didn't even know this article was going to go into apes, but it seems like because they have such a close DNA to us, they generally will use primates to compare behavior, especially behavior of women, it seems like. Wow. So a contrast with the effect of paternal death is instructive. In every study in which there are direct comparisons of the effect of maternal and paternal deaths, the loss of a father had substantially less impact. Indeed, in 15 out of 25, so 68% of studies, the presence of a father had no impact at all on child survival. Although it's commonly assumed that fathers are important in provisioning, paternal death had no effect on child surviving among South American Hiwi who live in nuclear families. Fathers contribute meat and direct child care. This is not to deny the contemporary evidence that fathers improve the children's educational and social life chances. My concern here is with the centrality of the mother during human evolution. It appears that paternal care is facultative rather than obligatory in our species, and that a father's death can be compensated for by help from grandmothers and older siblings. Infancy and early childhood are vulnerable periods. Among the AIC of Paraguay, 13% of children died before the end of their first year, and 27% before the age of 5. The mother is the infant's most important line of protection from starvation, attack, and accidents. And again, I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that children are often in the care of mothers. So this is not saying that the mom is the main, like she's the only one who could do those things, but a lot of the time she's the one who are providing those things. So if she's not providing those things, who is, and how is the child going to survive? And it seems like they're saying among humans that, or at least these primates, I think, that the presence of the father had very little impact, even when in South American Hiwi, the dads were actually providing direct child care. So I think it's interesting. That says something about biology and, what it means for us to take, what it means for us as our genders and our roles, I should say, right? That could be an argument for gender roles, because naturally women do this or naturally men do that. So I don't know. I think a lot of this is interesting because we're now going into apes and monkeys and stuff. So I still think it could only be loosely applied to humans. So very interesting that primates came up. I normally don't sit in the front of class, but tonight I will. You know what? Good job, No Chaser. I hope you have a notebook and a pen and you've got your thinking cap on. Hey, I don't bite. All right, so let's continue. So infancy and childhood are vulnerable periods among, okay, so the mothers, given the short interbirth interval in our species, women would have been caring for a vulnerable infant and or pregnant for a substantial portion of their reproductive career. A woman's reproductive success may have depended on the avoidance of risky behaviors, including aggression, right? So there's another reason why you're going to see maybe less aggression in women, right? That aggression puts us in danger and can harm our ability to be, have high reproductive rates or have reproductive success, which is what they're measuring as what we find important, per gender. You guys are silly. Silly, silly, silly. This raises the question of the psychological adaptation that mediates women's greater avoidance of risky confrontations. Aggression can be conceived as a trade-off between anger, which is approach, and fear, which is avoidance, which suggests that alterations in the intensity of these fundamental effective responses may underlie willingness to aggress. The possibility that women's lower level of anger might explain their greater desistance is not supported by research. Meta-analysis indicates no sex difference in anger either in adults or children. So we both get equally as angry, men and women. There's not enough differences. In addition, a raised threshold for anger might protect women from aggressive confrontations, but not from other risky forms of behavior. Yeah, this is ample evidence that women are more risk averse than men. So women are more likely to avoid risk than men are, which probably has a lot to do with our hormones and etc. All right, so they're talking about fear. All right, so in deprived and dangerous neighborhoods, girls frequently note the need to suppress expression of fear in order to avoid victimization. So it seems like there's definitely a lot of physical coping, right? Especially when you get to more impoverished neighborhoods that the women have to do, and that also plays a big that has a big influence on how women are interacting with each other and the competition amongst them, right? They use an example of Philadelphia and all the violence there and how that can maybe impact the forms of aggression that you're seeing from women in those areas. So I find this to be very interesting, right? I think we're probably going to have to do a part 2 of this one because I am barely able to keep my eyes open and I'm starving and I need to go eat. But I'm going to leave off there. I think that I probably learned more in different things than I thought I was going to learn in this article. I thought we were going to hear more about some of the dangers that can come with being surrounded by women, right? And I do think we're eventually going to get there. But this is a very open subject, I think. I think there's a lot of different theories going on at play here, right? Because a lot of it that we're seeing is based on socioeconomic status. It's based on, where you're living, whether you're middle income, whether you're low income, whether you're high income. Yeah, Lana, it was very informative because I do think a lot of things we just kind of think them. We don't really know the scientific basis for a lot of the things that, we interpret about our environments and such. And I think a lot of what we read today is a lot of things that most of us know, right? A lot of us know that this is how we interact with each other, but to know there's a scientific basis for it is probably was the most interesting thing. So we're going to start off here on this article in part 2 of this video. I'm not 100% sure when part 2 is going to be. I might actually do part 2 tomorrow, Friday, which I was planning to do anyways, but it was going to be a different subject. That one was going to be more so about the love bomber, because I do think, I don't know if that word is appropriate, because they wouldn't let me post my video when I used that spelled, the right way. It's all women's fault. Liberated. It seems like not really. It seems like a lot of it depends on, first of all, where you are, the amount of successful people there are there, and etc. But anyways, we're gonna get into this some more because this was I think it was very informative. It was very fact-based, which I like when you have conversations like this. And I definitely hope more people are gonna be, willing and able to talk about it, because it is 12:54 a.m. Yeah, none of us are working because tomorrow's Thanksgiving, but I know people are sleeping. They're probably preparing for their day tomorrow. So I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I will still be in the YouTube streets, probably consuming just like the rest of you guys, but I do have to end it here. So thank you for coming, guys. We'll get into the rest of this article either Friday or maybe even after that, so that we can move to the next subject and then maybe come back and hopefully have some more people hear that. But I did want to get into the next video, which was what do we call it? The love bomber, because we aren't supposed to use that word. Because I do think it is informative, but I think we need to break it down even more. Right. Then we do need to look into it even more, because as simple as it seems, there's always more to learn. And I think that the more people can learn from, what we read here, the better, right? Because I would prefer to have conversations that have some meaning. And I love these conversations because we're actually learning and interacting. And yeah, some people will jump in here and try to make it women, men, but we had a pretty good discussion. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you for coming. Much appreciated. Good night, everyone. Good night, Candy Cane. And peace out. Thanks for showing up. I much appreciate you guys for sticking in with me.